Hi there again. Spillover cost this time, and this would be the number 4, I think it is. Sorry, um, 5 on the sheet, and then I'll go back up to public goods. I'm not sure why I did this, but anyway, um, spillover cost is, as you might guess, the opposite, the negative when you have development or inventions or think about things like pollution is a really good example of a spillover cost. Um, you gotta have you make whatever you make this sweatshirt. There's going to be pollution. There's going to be smoke. There's going to be stuff maybe dumped in water and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let me give you the definition and all the notes, and then we'll talk about it. And this will be a quicker one probably. Okay, bad glare. Let me close this window. And that did not help a bit. So, okay, I'm going to change the angle. See that okay? You're there. Okay. If you can't, like I said, just email. I'll take care of it. Okay, now, spillover cost. If you think about something like, a factory, a housing addition, those kind of things. Any of you live in an addition or live close to one, if you think about that one out by Maple Ridge, Maple Trails, I think it's called, or when Summer Lake was built, and there's one going in next to Summer Lake that there are good things. If you live out next to Summer Lake, you now have cable that you probably didn't have. You may have sewer, you may have fire service, even though that's a touchy subject, obviously. You also may have neighbors, and in theory, normally when you have development like that, you have you see it a little bit. What's there? There's the BP or whatever it is, Gecko, Waffle House, and then the truck stop would not exist probably without that. Especially the Waffle House and the BP would not exist without Summer Lake. And there was supposed to be a lot more development there, but it never panned out because, well, it didn't. But there are also negatives, and these are the spillover costs. And even from the last time we talked about Exit 10, Exit 10 is the cost would be it's crowded, it's dark or brighter at night, it's louder, there's theoretically more people equals more wrecks equals more crime, and so on and so forth. So when you think about pollution, think about, if you, again, I love my sweatshirt, but it pollutes the river, it pollutes the air, the factory is loud, the dyes might hurt might hurt animals or whatever it is. Those are all spillover costs, the negatives. Okay. And those take the form of monetary cost. If you think about something like if you have a factory come in making the sweatshirt by Fall Creek, it's going to pollute the creek, so it's going to cost money to clean it up. It may cause health costs. It makes you cough, makes your eyes water. Think of COVID. I mean, this is a perfect spillover cost example of it. We're working on this virus in this lab, if it's indeed what happened, and something happens. Side effects are a good example of spillover cost. But whether it happened in the lab or whether it happened in those wet markets, there's plenty of spillover there too. You get diseases and things like that are not intended necessarily. Okay. You could also have social costs. Right now, what's the social cost of COVID? It's you can't go anywhere. You can't have your commencement. Sorry. You can't have prom, you can't have so on, so on, and so on. All of those things are spillovers from this thing that happened. Sorry if you think this is bad to say, but in China, it seems obvious that it has started there. Okay, so all of that, so blame Xi Jinping for ruining your prom. But anyway, that's what I mean by social costs. And, June Jamboree probably won't happen as much as they might think it's going to. Even next year with homecoming, not that you'll care because you're seniors, but it'll be different. There'll still be some of that hesitation involved for sure. And all of those are negatives. So I think financial, think political costs theoretically, is Donald Trump re-election bid helped or hurt by this. Social costs, health costs, and so on and so forth. So how does government fix this? Well, in COVID, you do the lockdowns, in which you have some costs and some benefits. The rates go down. You know, is it worth losing your prom and graduation that less people get sick or die? I'm not here to answer that question. But in the case of things like pollution or like Summer Lake and stuff, what government does is if you pollute, you know, they put fines out. You get fined, or you have to clean it up, or you have to get shut down. You can't, if you keep polluting, we're going to shut you down, which is good in that you don't get the pollution. It's bad in the sense that, well, I got to fire all 500 of my workers, and that's 500 people who don't have jobs. And now they're going to need jobs, or they're going to need welfare or unemployment or whatever. So there's always that negative again to the solution. Also, what will happen is government zones. If you know anything about zoning, basically you probably live in a residential zone where you can't have businesses close to you. Or if you do have businesses, they have to be small. Think about somebody you might know that has a beauty chair or, you know, a barber chair in their house. My ex mother-in-law has, she has that. She lives in a town, and then she's got a little chair. It's usually you know it's accepted because you get an exception to do it, and it's not causing a big problem. You can't just put a Walmart right in the middle of a housing addition. You've also got commercial, which is business, and then you've got what's called industrial, which would be like factories. So when you think about it, you don't want those things mixing generally, because people, you know, when they live, they like quiet, and they don't want a lot of traffic and all that, but they want to be close to it. So here's your residential zone. Think about Fisher's housing addition, housing addition, housing addition, strip mall. How many times do you see that arrangement in that town? And that's because they've zoned it that way. And then when in downtown Fisher's, that part that looks like it's right on the street down by Super Target, they've mixed that. It's called mixed use, where you've got basically the commercial is downstairs, and then you got apartments above it. It's also that new part in Fisher's on 116th over by Topgolf, if you know what I'm talking about. They've done that. Carmel's done this too. And it's a way to kind of control that growth. And then industrial, nobody wants the dump. Nobody wants the oil processing plant close to them, so you put it out sort of outside of town and all that, or in a bad part of town, if you will. And it limits that use as well. And then the third thing, I put the word covenants. If you know what that is, any of you live in housing addition, you're going to have a set of rules that your parents have to follow. And towns will have this too, but for the additions, you know, stuff like you got to keep your yard mowed. Mine has, you can't have a chain link fence. You can't park a boat or a trailer like a camper in their driveway except during the season. Just things to make life nicer, keep property values up, that kind of stuff. Towns will have this too. Carmel's got a good example. Zionsville's a real good example, where you can't build new buildings unless it meets a certain style. If you've ever been to a place like, think touristy places often have these, where your signs will all be low. You won't have these big tall signs. Signs will be low. Sometimes colors will be muted, where you've got, they want you to, you know, not be distracted by all that stuff, and it's ugly and so on. Those of you who have been to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, if you know that one road, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. That is not zoned. That is not protected. That's just crazy. You know, it's capitalism at its finest, I guess. But if you've been to a place like Sanibel Island, or you know, some of the places in Michigan, some of those towns, or the beach towns and stuff, have laws. It's obvious that everything's lower. It's calmer. You don't have a lot of the craziness, and it's designed to you know, make it a better experience, which makes them, frankly, able to charge more, generally speaking. So those are how you would solve spillover cost in those senses. The way to solve spillover cost with Wuhan virus is what we talked about, the shutdowns, the takeout only for restaurants and stuff. And as we slowly lower these things, you'll see that there'll be costs and benefits to doing that. And it's sad, but it's a really, really good example of how this works in actual life. So, all right, take care. I'll see you. Next one's coming up.